Jake thought the hardest part about having a roommate would be sharing bathroom time until he discovered Zara wasn't. Even from the same planet, Jake stared at the crumpled notice in his hand for the 10th time that morning. Emergency housing assignment, it read in bold red letters. He never thought he'd be desperate enough to share his tiny studio apartment with a complete stranger. But here he was, broke and out of options. The astronomy graduate program wasn't paying him enough to cover rent, food, and textbooks. When his scholarship got delayed for another month, he had two choices: find a roommate or sleep in his car. The campus housing office had been surprisingly helpful, though the coordinator seemed oddly nervous when discussing his potential roommate. "She's from very far away," Mrs. Peterson had explained, adjusting her glasses repeatedly. "Different cultural background. Very quiet student. Perfect grades." She paused, looking uncomfortable. "Just be patient with her adjustment period." Jake cleaned his small apartment 3 times that week. He moved his telescope to make room for another bed, organized his astronomy books, and even bought fresh sheets. The place still looked cramped, but at least it was clean. When Saturday arrived, Jake found himself pacing nervously. He'd shared dorm rooms before, but never his own space. What if they didn't get along? What if she was messy or brought loud friends over? His anxiety kicked into overdrive as he imagined all the ways this could go wrong. A soft knock interrupted his worried thoughts. Jake opened the door and immediately forgot how to breathe. The young woman standing there was unlike anyone he'd ever seen. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with long silver hair that seemed to shimmer in the hallway light. Her skin had an unusual pale quality, almost luminescent, but it was her eyes that made Jake's heart skip. They were violet, not the regular blue-purple some people had, but genuine deep violet like the night sky. "Hello," she said with a voice like wind chimes. "I am Zara. You are Jake, yes?" Jake nodded, still staring. There was something otherworldly about her presence, like she belonged in a fairy tale rather than a college apartment. "May I enter?" she asked politely. "Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, come in." Jake stepped aside, mentally kicking himself for gawking like an idiot. Zara walked into the apartment with fluid grace, carrying only a small silver backpack. She moved differently than most people, each step deliberate and purposeful. Her head turned slowly as she examined everything, the furniture, the walls, even the ceiling. "This is cozy," she said, though Jake couldn't tell if she meant it as a compliment. "It's small, I know, but the rent is cheap and it's close to campus." Jake watched as she continued her inspection. "Where's the rest of your stuff?" Zara looked puzzled. "Rest of my stuff? You know, clothes, books, personal things. Most people have more than one bag when they move." "I travel light," she replied simply. "I do not require many possessions." Jake found her word choice odd but shrugged it off. Maybe English wasn't her first language, though she spoke it perfectly. "Well, you can put your things in the dresser. I cleared out the bottom 2 drawers for you. Thank you. You are very kind." The way she said it, with such formal gratitude, made Jake wonder where she was really from. Her accent was subtle, but definitely there. Not quite European, not quite anything he could identify. Over the next few days, Jake began noticing strange things about his new roommate. She never seemed to sleep. He'd wake up at 3 in the morning to get water and find her sitting by the window, perfectly still, staring at the stars. When he asked about it, she'd smile mysteriously and say she was observing. Her eating habits were even more unusual. Jake never saw her cook or order food. She'd politely decline when he offered to share meals, claiming she sustained differently. He started wondering if she had some kind of medical condition. The strangest thing was how she seemed to know things she shouldn't. During their first real conversation about school, Zara asked detailed questions about his astronomy research. When Jake mentioned he was studying binary star systems, she nodded knowingly and made comments that showed deep understanding of advanced astrophysics concepts he hadn't even shared yet. "How do you know so much about stellar formation?" Jake asked one evening. Zara paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "I have always been interested in distant worlds." Jake spent more time studying Zara than his textbooks. She never showered, yet always smelled like fresh rain and starlight, if starlight had a scent. Her skin never showed blemishes or imperfections. She never seemed tired, stressed, or even slightly rumpled. Most puzzling was how she watched him. Jake caught her staring at him constantly, Not in a romantic way, but like a scientist observing an interesting specimen. When he'd laugh at a movie or get frustrated with homework, she'd tilt her head and study his expressions with intense curiosity. "Why do you do that?" Jake finally asked one night. "Do what?" Zara looked genuinely confused. "Watch me like I'm some kind of experiment." For a moment, something flickered across her face. Guilt? Fear, but it vanished quickly. "I am sorry. Where I come from, we observe more than we interact. It is how we learn about others." "Where exactly do you come from?" "You've never really said." Another pause. "Very far north. Small community. We keep to ourselves mostly." Jake accepted the answer, though something about it felt incomplete. Maybe she was from some remote Scandinavian village or isolated Canadian town. That might explain her unusual mannerisms and formal speech. As days passed, Jake found himself looking forward to their conversations. Despite her odd behavior, Zara was incredibly intelligent and surprisingly funny once she relaxed. She asked fascinating questions about human nature that made Jake think differently about ordinary things. "Why do humans form emotional attachments to objects?" she asked one evening, watching Jake carefully arrange his favorite coffee mug. "I don't know. Memories, I guess. This mug was my grandmother's. Using it makes me feel connected to her." Zara nodded thoughtfully, as if filing away important information. Their living arrangement settled into a comfortable routine, though Jake's curiosity about his mysterious roommate only grew stronger. She never received mail, never made phone calls, and never mentioned friends or family. It was like she'd appeared from nowhere. Everything changed on a Thursday night during a massive thunderstorm. Jake woke to the sound of rain hammering against the windows and realized he was alone in the apartment. Zara's bed was empty, sheets unruffled as if she'd never been there. Worried, Jake grabbed an umbrella and went looking for her. The storm was fierce, with lightning illuminating the sky every few seconds. He found her standing in the courtyard behind their building, completely still in the pouring rain. She wasn't seeking shelter or hurrying inside. She was standing with her arms outstretched, face turned toward the sky as lightning danced overhead. Her silver hair whipped around her like liquid mercury, and her pale skin seemed to glow with each flash of light. Jake called her name, but she didn't respond. As he got closer, he noticed something impossible. The rain wasn't just falling on her. It seemed to be absorbed into her skin. And when lightning struck nearby, instead of flinching, she appeared to be drawing the electricity toward herself. Fear crept up Jake's spine as he realized his roommate might not be entirely human after all. The next morning, Jake woke up wondering if he'd dreamed the whole thing. Maybe the storm and lack of sleep had made him imagine things. But when he found Zara sitting calmly at their small table, completely dry despite the fact that he'd seen her soaked in the rain just hours before, he knew something was definitely wrong. "Good morning." "Jake," she said with her usual pleasant smile. "Did you sleep well?" Jake stared at her. Her hair was perfectly styled, her clothes fresh and clean. There wasn't a single sign that she'd been standing in a thunderstorm. "Where were you last night?" he asked carefully. "Here, of course." "Where else would I be?" Zara's violet eyes met his with innocent confusion. Jake felt like he was losing his mind. "I saw you outside." "In the storm? Perhaps you had a dream?" Humans often experience vivid dreams during weather disturbances. The way she said humans made Jake's skin crawl, like she was talking about a different species entirely. Over the following days, Jake became obsessed with figuring out what was going on. He started paying closer attention to everything Zara did, and the more he watched, the more questions he had. She never left dirty dishes because she never ate. When Jake offered her pizza, coffee, or even water, she'd politely refuse. "My body processes nutrition differently," she'd explain with that mysterious smile. Jake tested this theory by leaving snacks around the apartment. Cookies, fruit, even expensive chocolate, nothing ever got touched. Yet Zara never seemed hungry, tired, or weak. If anything, she appeared to have endless energy. Her knowledge was another puzzle. During a study session for his advanced astrophysics exam, Jake was struggling with equations about gravitational waves. Zara glanced over his shoulder and casually pointed out an error in his calculations. "The frequency should account for orbital decay," she said matter-of-factly. Jake stared at the equation. She was right, but this was graduate-level physics that took him months to understand. "How did you know that?" "Lucky guess?" Zara's expression was innocent, but Jake caught a flash of panic in her eyes. "What's your major again?" Jake asked. "General studies," she replied quickly. I'm still exploring different subjects. That night, Jake couldn't concentrate on his homework. He kept thinking about Zara's impossible knowledge, her strange eating habits, and that night in the storm. Everything pointed to one crazy conclusion that his logical mind refused to accept. His breaking point came when he decided to investigate her belongings. Jake knew it was wrong to snoop, but his curiosity had turned into desperate need for answers. While Zara was out, wherever she went when she disappeared for hours, he carefully examined her side of the room. The silver backpack she'd arrived with contained things that made no sense. Instead of normal clothes, Jake found materials that felt unlike anything he'd touched before. They were soft yet strong, and seemed to shimmer with their own light. There were no tags, no brands, nothing that indicated where they'd been made. At the bottom of the bag, wrapped in that strange fabric, Jake found a small device that looked like no technology he'd ever seen. It was smooth, crystalline, and warm to the touch. When he picked it up, symbols appeared on its surface. Not letters or numbers, but flowing patterns that seemed to move and change. What are you doing? Jake spun around, heart hammering. Zara stood in the doorway, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked genuinely angry. I was just... Jake fumbled for an explanation, still holding the mysterious device. Zara moved faster than humanly possible, crossing the room in what felt like a single step. She took the device from his hands, her fingers briefly touching his. Her skin was ice cold. You should not have touched that, she said quietly. What is it? Jake's voice came out as a whisper. Zara stared at him for a long moment as if making a difficult decision. Sit down, Jake, please. Jake sat on his bed, legs shaky. Zara remained standing, the strange device clutched in her hands. You've been watching me, she said, and you've noticed that I'm different. Different how? Jake asked, though part of him already knew the answer would change everything. I'm not from here, Jake. Not from your city, not from your country, not even from your world. The words hung in the air between them. Jake's rational mind screamed that this was impossible, but everything he'd observed suddenly made perfect sense. You're saying you're an alien, he said slowly. That's your word for it, yes. Jake felt dizzy. This is crazy. People don't just live with aliens. This stuff doesn't happen to normal guys like me. I know it's difficult to accept, but I need you to listen, because your planet might depend on it. Zara sat down across from him, still holding the device. Her violet eyes seemed to glow in the dim apartment light. My people are dying, Jake. Our world is becoming uninhabitable, and we need help. But we can't just arrive and ask for assistance. We need to understand humans first, to know if contact is safe for both our species. So you're what, some kind of spy? An observer. I was sent to study human behavior, to learn about your emotions, your relationships, your capacity for cooperation. My report will help my people decide whether to make contact or find another solution. Jake's head was spinning. How many of you are here? Just me in this region. There are others in different parts of your world, but we work alone to avoid detection. Why are you telling me this? Won't your people be angry? Zara looked down at the device in her hands. Because something unexpected has happened. Something my people didn't prepare me for. What? She looked up, and Jake saw something vulnerable in her eyes that he'd never seen before. I've started to care about you, Jake. About this life we've built together. When I saw you discovering my things, I realized I don't want to lie to you anymore. Jake sat in stunned silence, processing everything. His quiet, mysterious roommate was an alien scout studying humanity. It should have been terrifying, but instead he felt oddly relieved. All the strange pieces finally fit together. So what happens now? He asked. Now you have a choice. You can report me to your authorities, or you can help me complete my mission. Either way, everything between us changes. Jake looked at Zara, really looked at her. Despite learning the truth, she was still the same person who'd shared quiet conversations with him, who'd helped with his homework, who'd made his lonely apartment feel like home for the first time. If I help you, Jake said carefully. What does that mean exactly? It means teaching me about human nature, about love, friendship, trust, about all the things that make your species worth saving. Jake realized his answer had been obvious from the moment she'd started talking. Whether she was human or alien didn't matter. What mattered was that she'd trusted him with the truth, and that somewhere along the way he'd started caring about her too. Okay, he said simply. Let's save both our worlds. The days that followed Jake's discovery changed everything between them. Zara seemed relieved to finally drop her act, and Jake found himself fascinated by getting to know the real her. She was still the same quiet, thoughtful person he'd grown fond of, but now her unusual behaviors made sense. "So you really don't need to eat?" Jake asked one morning, watching her sit politely at the table while he had breakfast. "My body converts energy directly from light and electromagnetic fields," Zara explained. "That's why I stand by the window so often and why the thunderstorm felt so good that night." Jake nodded, still adjusting to casual conversations about alien biology. "What about sleep?" "We don't sleep like humans do. We enter a meditative state to process information, but it doesn't require unconsciousness. That explains why I never found you actually sleeping." Jake paused, thinking, "Your people must be really different from us." Zara's expression grew sad. "In many ways, yes. We're more logical. We make decisions based on efficiency and survival. But living here observing you, I'm starting to understand that humans have something we don't." "What's that?" "You make choices based on feelings. You help others even when it doesn't benefit you. You form connections that make you stronger together than apart." She looked at Jake directly. "My people sent me to study human weaknesses, but I'm discovering your greatest strengths instead." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. "So what exactly does your mission involve?" Zara pulled out the crystal device he'd found in her bag. "This records everything I observe. My people want to understand human social structures, emotional responses, and decision-making processes. They're particularly interested in how humans handle conflict and cooperation." "And what have you told them about us so far?" "That humans are more complex than we anticipated. You're capable of both great kindness and terrible cruelty. You're unpredictable, which my people see as dangerous." Jake frowned. "That doesn't sound like a positive report." "It's not meant to be positive or negative. It's meant to be honest." Zara touched the device gently. "But lately my observations have been incomplete." "What do you mean?" "I was supposed to remain emotionally detached. Observer only, never participant. But living with you, being part of your daily life, has changed how I see things." Jake leaned forward, intrigued. "How so?" Zara was quiet for a moment, as if struggling to find the right words. "When you laugh at something silly on television, I feel lighter. When you're stressed about exams, I want to help you feel better. When you were kind to me, even when you suspected I was different, something inside me changed." "Sounds like you're developing emotions," Jake said softly. "That's what I'm afraid of. My people would consider it a contamination of the mission." Jake reached across the table and touched her hand. It was still cold, but somehow comforting. "Maybe your people need to learn about emotions, too. Maybe that's part of what could save both our worlds." Over the following weeks, Jake became Zara's guide to human nature. He explained why people cried at movies, why they kept photos of loved ones, why they sometimes acted against their own interests to help others. "Today I want to show you something important," Jake announced one Saturday morning. "We're going to the park." "For what purpose?" Zara asked. "To observe humans in their natural habitat," Jake grinned. "And to experience something called fun." At the park, Jake watched Zara's reaction to families playing together, couples holding hands, children laughing on swings. She studied everything with intense curiosity, but Jake could see something else in her expression, longing. "They seem so happy," she observed, watching a family have a picnic. "That's because they choose to spend time together. They don't have to, but they want to. On my world, we gather only for necessary functions: survival, reproduction, resource distribution." Jake felt sad thinking about such a sterile existence. What about friendship, love? Just enjoying each other's company? Those are foreign concepts to us. We exist efficiently, but perhaps not joyfully. An idea formed in Jake's mind. "Zara, what if there was a way to save your world that didn't involve just relocating your people? What if we could teach each other?" "What do you mean?" "Your people are logical and efficient. Humans are emotional and creative. Maybe together we could solve problems neither species could handle alone." Zara's violet eyes widened. "That's not what my people sent me to explore." "But it's what you're discovering, isn't it? That cooperation might be better than conquest or replacement." That evening, they sat on the apartment's small balcony looking up at the stars. Jake pointed to different constellations while Zara shared stories about the worlds she'd seen during her journey to Earth. "My planet is beautiful in its own way," she said quietly. Crystal formations that sing in the wind, cities that float among the clouds. But there's no laughter there, Jake. No one pauses to watch a sunset just because it's beautiful. Maybe you could bring some of that back with you, Jake suggested. Show them what you've learned about joy and connection. They would think I've been corrupted by human emotion. Or maybe they'd realize they've been missing something important. Zara turned to look at him, and in the starlight, her alien features seemed both exotic and familiar. You really believe our species could work together? I believe anything's possible when people care about each other. And despite everything, I think you've started to care about us. About me, Zara nodded slowly. More than I should. More than is safe for my mission. Then maybe it's time to change the mission. Before Zara could respond, the crystal device in her pocket began to glow. She pulled it out and Jake saw symbols flowing across its surface faster than before. What's happening? Jake asked. Zara's face went pale. It's a message from my people. They're coming. Coming here? When? Soon. They want my final report. Zara looked at Jake with fear in her eyes. If they think humans are too dangerous or unpredictable, they'll find another solution to save our people. What kind of solution? Zara's silence told Jake everything he needed to know. The stakes had just gotten much higher than saving two individuals. The future of both their species was about to be decided. The next 3 days passed in a blur of tension and preparation. Zara spent hours communicating with her people through the crystal device, while Jake tried to help her figure out how to present humanity in the best possible light. What exactly are they expecting in your report? Jake asked, pacing around their small apartment. Data on human behavioral patterns, emotional stability, and potential for cooperation, Zara replied, looking exhausted despite not needing sleep. They want to know if humans can be trusted as allies or if they pose a threat. And what are you going to tell them? Zara set down the device and looked at him with troubled eyes. I don't know. My original observation suggested humans were too unpredictable and emotionally driven to be reliable partners. But living with you has shown me something different. Jake sat beside her. What did you see that changed your mind? You. When you discovered what I was, your first instinct wasn't fear or anger. It was curiosity and acceptance. You chose to help me even though it could put you in danger. That's just being a decent person. But that's exactly what my people don't understand. The concept of being decent without personal gain. They see it as inefficient, possibly dangerous. The crystal device began glowing again and Zara picked it up with shaking hands. The symbols flowing across its surface were different this time, more urgent, more demanding. They're here, she whispered. They want to meet tonight. Jake felt his heart skip. Here in the apartment? No. They're waiting in the forest outside town. They want me to bring my final report and... She hesitated. And what? And any human I've formed a significant connection with. Jake stared at her. You told them about me? I had to. My emotional responses have been so different lately that they detected the change in my communication patterns. They know something has affected my objectivity, so they want to meet me. Zara nodded, to evaluate whether you're an exception or representative of your species. That evening, Jake found himself walking through the dark woods outside town with his alien roommate, heading toward a meeting that would determine the fate of two worlds. His hands were sweaty and his heart wouldn't stop racing. What are they like, your people? He asked as they walked deeper into the forest. Logical, direct. They don't understand emotional decision-making. Zara glanced at him. They might seem cold to you. Will they hurt me? Not intentionally. But they view everything through the lens of survival and efficiency. If they see you as a threat to their mission... She didn't finish the sentence, but Jake understood. They reached a clearing where the moonlight filtered through the trees, creating patterns of silver and shadow on the ground. At first, Jake saw nothing unusual. Then the air began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. 3 figures materialized in the center of the clearing. They looked similar to Zara, but somehow more alien. Taller, with skin that seemed to glow from within, and eyes that were completely silver without any visible pupils. They moved with perfect synchronization, as if they were parts of the same organism. Zara 7 Echo, the center figure spoke, its voice echoing strangely in the quiet forest. Present your report. Zara stepped forward, her posture becoming more formal. Greetings, Council. My observations of human behavior have been extensive. We have detected emotional contamination in your communications. Explain. Jake watched Zara struggle with her answer. The human species is more complex than our initial assessment suggested. They possess capabilities that could be beneficial to our survival. Elaborate. They form cooperative bonds that extend beyond genetic relationships. They make sacrifices for others without direct benefit to themselves. They adapt quickly to new situations and information. The three council members exchanged looks, if you could call the slight tilting of their heads, looking. Their silver eyes remained fixed on Zara. These are the qualities of prey species seeking protection through group behavior, the left figure stated. Weakness disguised as strength. I disagree, Zara said, and Jake could hear the tremor in her voice. I believe these qualities represent evolutionary advantages we lack. You have been compromised. The right figure stepped forward. Present the human for evaluation. Zara gestured for Jake to join her. His legs felt like rubber, but he managed to walk to her side. Standing close to the three aliens, he could feel an energy radiating from them that made his skin tingle. I am Jake, he said, proud that his voice came out steady. The center figure approached him, moving with that same fluid grace Zara had. You are the source of contamination in Zara 7 Echo's mission parameters. I'm her friend, Jake replied. Define friend. Jake looked at Zara, then back at the imposing alien. Someone who cares about your well-being without expecting anything in return. Someone who accepts you for who you are. Inefficient, the left figure stated. Actually, it's the most efficient system imaginable, Jake said, surprising himself with his boldness. When people care about each other, they work harder, think more creatively, and accomplish things no individual could do alone. Demonstrate this concept, Jake thought quickly. How could he show them what human connection really meant? Then he remembered something from his childhood. Zara, do you trust me? He asked. She nodded without hesitation. Then close your eyes and fall backward. I'll catch you. Zara looked confused but followed his instruction. She closed her violet eyes and let herself fall. Jake caught her easily, supporting her weight. This demonstrates trust, he explained to the council. She was willing to be vulnerable because she believed I would protect her. And if you had not caught her? But I did. That's the point. When people trust each other, they become stronger together. The council members seemed to consider this. Jake helped Zara stand, and she smiled at him gratefully. Your species fascinates us, the center figure said, but fascination is not the same as utility. Our world is dying. We need resources and knowledge, not emotional connections. But that's exactly what you need, Jake insisted. You're trying to solve a survival problem with pure logic, but survival isn't just about resources. It's about having something worth living for. Jake took a deep breath and made the biggest gamble of his life. Zara, show them your true form. The council members went very still. Zara looked shocked. Jake, what are you doing? Trust me. Show them who you really are. Zara hesitated, then began to change. The human appearance she'd been maintaining fell away like a discarded costume. Her skin became luminescent, her features more angular, her hair flowing like liquid starlight. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way that took Jake's breath away. This is how Zara really looks, Jake said to the council, and she was afraid to show me because she thought I might reject her. But look, Jake walked over to Zara and took her now glowing hand in his. I don't care that she's different. I care about who she is inside. This is what humans call love, accepting someone completely, differences and all. For the first time, emotion flickered across the council members' faces. The center figure stepped closer. You find her alien form acceptable? I find her beautiful, Jake said honestly. The council exchanged those subtle head tilts again, communicating in ways Jake couldn't understand. Finally, the center figure spoke. This changes our assessment. If humans can accept differences this fundamental, perhaps cooperation is possible after all. Jake felt a surge of hope. So you'll work with us instead of against us? We will consider it. But first, we must test this theory on a larger scale. The right figure activated a device similar to Zara's crystal. We will reveal ourselves to a small group of your leaders. If they respond with the same acceptance you have shown, we will propose an alliance. And if they don't? Jake asked. The council's silence was answer enough. As they prepared to leave, the center figure approached Zara. Your mission has evolved beyond our original parameters. Are you prepared to serve as permanent liaison between our species? Zara looked at Jake, then back at the council. Only if Jake can work with me. He understands both species now. We're stronger together. The center figure studied Jake for a long moment. Very well. But understand, if this cooperation fails, both your worlds will face consequences. As the three aliens vanished back into the shimmering air, Jake and Zara stood alone in the moonlit clearing. They had just committed to saving two civilizations, and Jake wasn't sure if he felt terrified or exhilarated. So, he said, trying to lighten the mood, want to go home and figure out how to introduce Earth to its first alien allies? Zara, still in her true form, smiled with alien features that somehow looked completely familiar. Together? Always together, Jake promised. 3 months later, Jake stood in a conference room at the United Nations, watching world leaders meet with Zara's people for the first time. It hadn't been easy. There had been fear, suspicion, and plenty of people who thought the whole thing was an elaborate hoax. But slowly, carefully, trust was being built. The aliens shared technology that could help with climate change, while humans offered cultural knowledge and emotional intelligence that the logical alien species had never experienced. The atmospheric processors are working better than we projected, Dr. Chen, the lead scientist on the joint project, reported to the Mixed Human-Alien Committee. The emotional investment your species brings to the work is creating innovative solutions we never would have found through logic alone. Jake smiled as he watched Zara translate between the two groups. She had become exactly what she was meant to be, a bridge between worlds. After the meeting, Jake and Zara walked back to their new apartment. It was bigger now, with special lighting that helped Zara maintain her energy, and a telescope powerful enough to show her home world as a tiny dot among the stars. Do you miss it? Jake asked as they sat on their balcony, looking up at the night sky. Your old life. Zara, comfortable now and showing her true form around him, considered the question. I miss the simplicity sometimes, when everything was logical and predictable. But I wouldn't trade what I've learned here for anything. Your species taught me that complexity can be beautiful, that caring about others doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Jake laughed. You're becoming more human every day, and you're becoming more understanding of the universe beyond Earth. Maybe that's what this was always supposed to be about. Both species, learning and growing together. They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars. In the distance, Jake could see the lights of construction crews working on the first joint human-alien research facility. It would be a place where both species could work side by side, combining logic with emotion, efficiency with creativity. Jake? Zara said quietly. Yeah? Thank you for trusting me that first night. For seeing past the differences to who I really was. Jake reached over and took her hand, no longer cold but warm with alien energy and very human affection. Thank you for showing me that the universe is bigger and more wonderful than I ever imagined. Above them, shooting stars streaked across the sky, some natural meteors, others the lights of ships bringing more representatives from Zara's world to Earth. The age of cooperation between species had officially begun, and it all started with two roommates who learned to trust each other, despite being from completely different worlds. As they watched the sky together, Jake realized this was exactly how it was supposed to be. Not humans conquering aliens or aliens studying humans, but two species helping each other become something better than they could be alone. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities neither species could have achieved on their own. And it all began with the simple act of accepting someone who was different and choosing love over fear. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.